In a media world that feels like it changes every single minute, how do you build a brand that actually lasts? Well, the secret isn't chasing every shiny new algorithm. It's all about anchoring in something way more stable, timeless human truths. Okay, let's dive into this.
This is the big question, isn't it? If you're trying to build a brand today, it feels like the ground is constantly shifting underneath you. You finally figure out one platform, and suddenly another one takes over. New tech pops up, and all the old rules just get tossed out the window. It feels so unpredictable, almost chaotic. So how in the world do you find some solid ground?
Well, the answer, or at least a really powerful way to think about it, comes from this incredible deep dive, the Dentsu 2026 Media Trends Report. We're going to break down its biggest insights to help find some real clarity in all that chaos.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the big algorithmic challenge. Then we'll get into 3 deep human truths that really cut through all the noise. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with 3 key findings you can actually put to work.
All right, so the big strategic shift we need to make is right here. Instead of constantly chasing platforms, which is exhausting, the real goal is to find those fundamental human moments. The need for connection, for discovery, for pure entertainment, and build your brand right there. That's how you build something that lasts.
This brings us to our first human truth, and it's a fascinating one. It's all about this tension between wanting things to be super easy, but also wanting them to be meaningful. We want efficiency, sure, but we're also complex people who crave engagement and a good story. The absolute best brands find a way to balance both. And this leads to a really cool, kind of counterintuitive concept called intentional friction. Now, I know what you're thinking. Everything's supposed to be frictionless, right? But what we're learning is that sometimes a carefully designed pause or even a small challenge can actually make an experience way more valuable and way more memorable. And this quote just nails it. When every single experience is perfectly smooth and seamless, they all just blend together. They become forgettable, they're easily replaced. The real chance for a brand to stand out is to be brave enough to add a little bit of valuable friction back in.
So what does this actually mean for brands? First, you got to think about search as one big thing, across AI, social, e-commerce, the whole shebang. Second, when you use AI, don't just scale it for efficiency. Make sure it actually reflects your brand strategy. And most importantly, never forget this. The easiest experience is almost always the easiest one to forget.
Okay, on to our second truth. For all the tech that tries to isolate us, we are, at our core, social animals. It's just who we are. In fact, with so much information and misinformation flying around, we're actually trusting other people, our communities, more than ever to help us make sense of it all. Think about this for a second. A live event, like a concert or a huge game, isn't just a media format. The report calls it a factory for collective memory, and that is perfect. It's the feeling of being there, sharing that moment with thousands of other people. When brands become a part of that, they get embedded into our shared memories. And this requires a total shift in how we think. The old way was talking at people. It was a one-way street, just pushing products. The new way, the modern approach, is about being a facilitator. It's about creating shared experiences and actually enabling conversations within a community. And a really powerful way to create that shared feeling is through nostalgia. It's becoming this common language that connects everyone. Millennials are reliving their youth, and Gen Z is discovering that same stuff as this cool, retro culture. For a brand, tapping into that is a golden opportunity to create a real emotional bond. All right, our third and final truth is a classic, and for good reason. People don't read ads. We just don't. We read what interests us, we watch what entertains us. The job of a brand isn't to interrupt what people are doing, it's to be the interesting thing they actually want to engage with. This quote from the advertising legend Howard Luck Gossage, he said this decades ago, but it has never been more true. In today's world of just infinite content, your ad isn't competing with other ads. It's competing with everything. It has to be genuinely compelling to even have a shot. So how do you become that interesting thing? Well, you have to understand that the game has fundamentally changed. Platforms like Meta and Google aren't just tools for finding people anymore. They've become prediction engines. They're not asking who fits this demographic. They're learning who is going to react to this content. It's a total paradigm shift. This means the creative, the ad itself, is more critical than ever. If you want to show up in these passionate communities, like in gaming or anime, you can't just be an outsider looking in. You have to speak the language. You have to become a natural part of their world, not just a commercial break that interrupts it. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here. So let's pull it all together. Let's boil this down to the 3 essential takeaways from the report and talk about why they're so valuable for brand growth.
So here they are, the 3 big ones. First, design for friction. In a world obsessed with making everything smooth, the truly memorable experiences will come from the valuable friction you design on purpose. Second, foster collective moments. Stop just selling things and start facilitating connection. Become a part of a community's story. And third, become the entertainment. Earn attention by being a natural, authentic part of the culture your audience already loves.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. The platforms, the tech, the algorithms, they're always going to change. But those core human needs for meaning, for connection, and for entertainment, they're not going anywhere. So the real strategic question is this: which of those timeless human moments will your brand choose to become a part of?